Why was America's favourite cup of tea made in Glasgow? What's the story of the White Lady? And just who was the city's most famous Greek? Find out now in this episode of Astonishing Glasgow. It's February 2024 and there's ice in all the puddles. It's 3 degrees outside, so I'm not venturing too far from home. I'm back in the city's southern necropolis in the Gorbals area to explore some more of the graveyard's interesting inhabitants. The first thing we need to do is pass through the gate, which I think looks a heck of a lot like Castle Grayskull. And then we pass down Glasgow's very own answer to the dark hedges. The last time I brought you here was to visit the grave of Agnes Harkins. She was the heroine of Matagorda, and you can watch that story in episode 22. The first grave I'm visiting today is very close to Agnes's grave in the eastern section of the cemetery. You'll need to look out for this grave by shape, as all the details of those buried here are printed on the side facing away from the path. This is the Lipton family grave. You may have heard the name, especially if you're an American tea drinker, but you may not know the amazing story of Sir Thomas Lipton. Thomas Lipton was born in a tenement flat in Crown Street on the 10th of May 1848. His parents had moved to Scotland from Ireland in 1845 to escape the Great Famine, and after having several jobs, by the 1860s his father owned his own shop. It was among the tenements at number 11 Crown Street, though nothing of the old Gorbals remains today. As can be seen in the gravestone, Thomas Lipton had 3 brothers and a sister, who all died in infancy, with only Tommy and his sister Margaret surviving to adulthood. He left school at 13 to find work. He was a printer's errand boy and a shirt cutter during the day, but at night he was studying at the Gorbals Youth School. He signed up as a cabin boy on a steamship in 1864, running between Glasgow and Belfast, and he was soon captivated by the tales of the sea and the stories of America. Using his wages, he bought a ticket for a steamer bound for the USA. He spent 5 years travelling and working on tobacco plantations in Virginia, farms in New Jersey, and at one point he became a door-to-door salesman in New Orleans, before heading to New York to become a grocery assistant. In 1870, he returned to work at his parents' shop in Glasgow, but by 1871 he opened his own shop, Lipton's Market, at 101 Stobcross Street in Anderson. Much like his parents' shop in Crown Street, Stobcross Street has changed completely and was cleared to make way for the Clydeside Expressway in the 60s. No trace remains of the original road. His shop was a success, and soon there was a chain of Lipton's grocer shops throughout Glasgow, and eventually there were 300 branches all across the United Kingdom. He soon identified a demand for tea amongst his middle-class customers. At the same time, he undercut the London tea traders by sourcing his supply from British Ceylon, now Sri Lanka. Eventually buying the plantation and the Ceylon Tea Company, Lipton's own brand tea was distributed throughout Europe and the USA by 1890. He sold the tea at a far lower price than his rivals, and made the tea popular with the working class, who up till now could not afford tea. His secret for success was selling the best product at the cheapest price and harnessing the power of advertising. You're bound to have seen a Lipton's tea advert somewhere, whether it's a metal sign or a printed advert in a book. He tried and failed to win the America's Cup yacht race 5 times, but was ever the optimist, and publicity made Lipton's tea the most popular tea in the USA and challenged coffee for the title of America's favourite drink. Described in the press as the world's most eligible bachelor, He never had a relationship with a woman, as he said none measured up to his mother. He featured on the cover of Time magazine in 1924, but passed away on the 2nd of October 1931. He left his fortune to the people of Glasgow, and his yachting trophies can still be seen in Kelvingrove art galleries. He's buried right here with the rest of his family in the southern necropolis, and being a tea merchant, it's rather fitting that the monument is adorned with a little urn. Whilst I cycle to the next grave of interest, please hit that like button if you're enjoying my videos, and hit that subscribe button to get notified when new episodes go live. Now this next grave is one that I've been trying to visit for a while. Back in June 2023, I made episode 45 of Astonishing Glasgow, all about Hugh MacDonald, the Glasgow poet and author. But when I came in the summertime in search of his grave, the grass was about 2 foot tall and I couldn't find it. On this visit, however, I finally found his grave with a little help from Disney Moose About of the Astonishing Glasgow Facebook page, and I'm happy to complete that story 10 episodes later. If you didn't see it already, I'll add a link to episode 45 about the amazing Hugh MacDonald at the end of this video. As I ramble further west, the next gravestone is a sad story of a tragic accident and a local legend. Known as the White Lady, this striking marble grave has stood here since 1909 and is the grave of John Smith. John Smith was a carpet manufacturer who died on January the 24th, 1909. The tragedy behind this grave unfolded in 1933. The 29th of October that year was a Sunday, and John Smith's 82-year-old widow, Magdalene, is returning from church during a rainstorm, accompanied by her devoted housekeeper, Mary McNaughton. As they cross Queen's Drive, right here, the umbrella that they were using to shelter from the rain blocked their view of an oncoming tramcar, and both were knocked down. Magdalene was killed instantly by the tram, but Mary was rushed to the nearby Victoria Infirmary for treatment. Sadly, she died from her injuries on the 4th of November 1933. Both women are buried here in the southern necropolis. But what is the spooky story of this grave? Well, according to local legend, the head of the White Lady has been seen turning and following people as they pass by, fixing them with a ghostly stare. So to stop her watching on, the statue's face has been chipped away by superstitious locals. In all the articles I can find about the White Lady, none of them specify which church Magdalene and Mary were returning from, but given the location of the accident, it is kind of possible that they had been at the magnificent Queen's Park United Free Church, which stood right here on Langside Road, only about 200 metres from Queen's Drive, where the tram accident happened. Built in 1869, the church was a victim of German bombing in March 1943, when an incendiary bomb set it on fire and burned it to the ground. This fire added Queen's Park Church to a long list of lost buildings designed by Glasgow's second most famous architect, Alexander Greek Thomson, which is quite the coincidence, as in the western section of the southern necropolis is this: the imposing black granite grave of the man himself. Alexander Thomson was born in 1817, and if you've never heard of him, you can't have watched many of my Astonishing Glasgow episodes, as he has popped up quite a number of times. Maybe you remember the mausoleum he designed in Cathcart Old Parish Church, as seen in episode 42. You may remember seeing Homewood House in Astonishing Glasgow episode 12. But he also designed the Caledonia Road Church in the Gorbals. His villas on Mansion House Road are rather famous, and the sadly neglected Egyptian halls on Union Street that have been hidden by scaffolding for far too long. His classical style earned him the nickname Greek, and he is credited with influencing prominent architect Frank Lloyd Wright in America, even though he wasn't well known in his lifetime outside Glasgow. He died on the 22nd of March 1875 at home in Murray Place in Strathbungo, a building of his own design, and he was laid to rest in the southern necropolis. The current gravestone was erected in May 2006 after the original headstone was damaged and removed at some point in the past. Sadly, somebody has pinched the metal details from the top, but the granite is in good condition and has a mile deep shine even on a dull day. There's also a dedication stone and a tree in a circle just behind his grave. There are a few more details than the main gravestone, which only has his surname etched into it. Nearly time to head home before I end up as cold as the residents, but I can't leave without talking about the events of September 1954. Rumour spread throughout local schools that a 7-foot tall vampire with iron teeth had kidnapped and murdered 2 young boys in the graveyard and feasted upon their corpses. Hundreds of local kids got tooled up with knives, hatchets and pickaxes and descended on the southern necropolis in search of the Gorbals vampire. They swarmed through the gates and searched the whole graveyard, fearing nothing until the rain came on, and then they headed home for their dinner. But the next night they were out in force again, despite the attempts of adults, teachers and the police to calm the hysteria. As a thick fog rolled in to add to the atmosphere, every shadowy figure was approached and every corner of the graveyard was patrolled, but there was no sign of any blood-sucking creatures of the night, beyond maybe the odd flea-infested dog. By night 3, the panic and the interest of most kids was fading, but by now the legend of the Gorbals vampire was staked into the heart of the community, with the legend stoked by the following press interest. Soon, the legend was being told beyond the Gorbals, as the press around the world picked up the story. Discussions arose about the impact of American horror comics on the young minds, as just a year earlier, Dark Mysteries comic number 15 had published a story called The Vampire with the Iron Teeth, and it's thought that this was the source of the hysteria. So that was a visit to the southern necropolis. I bet your visit was warmer than mine. There are loads more interesting people buried here, so let me know if you want another episode like this. Either way, I'm guaranteed we'll be back here at some point. In the meantime, please hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this episode. Hit the super thanks button if you'd like to make a small donation to help me make more Astonishing Glasgow episodes. Here are the super folks who made a donation after the last episode. If you want to get in touch, add a comment below or head over to the social media pages. All the links are below. I'm off home to warm up, so thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time in Astonishing Glasgow. I'm tucking into a £1/4 bag of white chocolate skulls. Roll on the sugar buzz. See ya.